Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Marissa Farrow here. Listen, I am so excited about tonight's conversation with my friend, my brother. He is one of my favorite, and I do mean my favorite young preachers. You know, I talk uh, to a lot of people about a lot of things, but Reginald Wayne Sharpe, let the record show, he is my favorite millennial preacher. Okay, now I have a list, so I'll prioritize them a little later because I know I'm gonna get some feedback from the saints. I'm kidding. Listen, as you come in tonight, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to hit share. This is a very important conversation. If you have a millennial somewhere in your house or around you that you know needs to have a conversation about what is taking place in America right now with the climate and the culture, I think that it is imperative that we bring young people into these kinds of conversations so that we can start to enlighten individuals on what is taking place and how we can move and how we can strategize and build during this time. I know that a lot of people have seen a lot of reckless behavior during these times, and specifically as we are witnessing protests globally. And there have been some incidents of other things taking place, but this is a strong time for us to talk and to speak. And I'm telling y'all, this young man who is coming to join me in just a few seconds is going to inspire us. He's going to empower us. He's going to enlighten us. And I am just super glad that he is here. Before he comes in, as you come in, what I need you to do, as always, one, I need you to hit that share button right now. I need at least 30 of y'all who's in here between YouTube and Facebook to hit that share button. Thank y'all for the hair comments. I see y'all coming in. When you come in, not only do I need you to share, but I need you to tell us where you're watching from. This is such a historic time. The interesting thing is this, that there have been protests in every single city in the United States, every single city in the United States of America. All 50 states have seen a protest during this time. And that is so interesting. So globally, I want to know where you all are coming from. Before I bring Pastor Sharpe on, y'all do me a favor, come in. Thank you, Shavonda. I see you. Thanks for sharing so much. I see you watching from Columbus, Ohio, home of my sister and my other father in the faith, Bishop Timothy Clark, Jocelyn Clark, my sisters. Amen. All right. I got Stephanie Cooper watching from Atlanta. Thank you for watching. Y'all know Atlanta is Reggie's old home, his other place of residence. And so I'm glad to see the folks coming in from Atlanta and Macon. Come on. I got Pittsburgh in the house, Harlem, New York in the house. Y'all know that's my other home. Shout out to New York. I got Chicago here. Of course we got Chicago because now we have the pastor of the fellowship, Chicago. What a fellowship. All right, we got Fellowship Chicago on here. Reggie, they coming in strong. Gaithersburg, Maryland. We're so excited. Brooklyn, the boogie down. Amen. No, actually, that's Bronx. Brooklyn, B. King is in the house. Got Baltimore here. Killeen, Texas is here. Tampa, Florida. LaGrange, Georgia. Kennesaw, Georgia. Maryland in the house. I'm so glad you all are coming in. Y'all keep coming in. Y'all keep sharing. Detroit is here. We're so glad. North Carolina, my cousin, Elaine Lacey. Thank you for being here. All right, Brianna Sullivan Sharp. Y'all know who that is. That is the wife of our guest tonight, and she is here. And let me tell y'all before I go forward, my sister is about to release her single entitled Free, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that Bree is free, and she's freeing the people because she's Bree. So y'all pay attention to her Instagram page, Facebook page. I'm going to provide her link before I get out of here tonight, but I want y'all to support my sister because Reggie and Bree are my Martin and Coretta for this generation. So I'm super excited. We got Brandywine, Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland. Come on, 30 more seconds. Y'all hit that share button. Chicago, Illinois is here. The boogie down. Yes, that is the Bronx. I got it right now. We got New Orleans in the house. That's so dope. I love NOLA. That is the best food on the face of the planet. All right. Got some fellowship people here. Y'all see them anchor emojis. That's a fellowship thing. So y'all make sure y'all know who's in the house. All right. All right. Got fellowship here. St. Pete, Florida. Come on, we in the last 30 seconds, and then I'm bringing in Pastor Sharpe. Bree, you know I love you, sis. Glad you're here with us tonight, and thanks for sharing my brother with us tonight for this hour. Greensboro, North Carolina. Oh, home of Arigatos. Y'all can tell I'm a foodie, right? I eat everywhere I go all across this country. All right, y'all. Last 10 seconds. Thank y'all for coming in. Come in, hit the share button. Tell us where you're watching from, and we are so excited. Look, Bree, they're excited. They got free going across the screen. Amazing. Rock Hill, South Carolina. Bishop, I used to live there for a little period of time when I was heading back to school. I'm glad that y'all are here. Thank y'all, thank y'all, thank y'all. Listen, I'm not going to delay this any further because, like I said, this man of God that we have coming on tonight is just, he's brilliant. He's a genius. I could go on for days and about his accolades, about how I have watched him progress over these last few years that I have been privileged to know him. He started out in ministry under Pastor E. Dewey Smith. I actually watched his initial sermon clip on YouTube not too long ago. He's been preaching for a mighty long time. He's an old soul in a young body, but he's a genius when it comes to ministry. He's recently become the pastor as of January 1 at Fellowship Chicago, where Pastor Clay Evans was the founding pastor. And then we had Pastor Charles Jenkins as pastor emeritus. Unfortunately, Reggie did not get to have his installation weekend just yet. But when it is time, we are going to seal the deal and celebrate. We're so excited about his ministry and watching him. Everything that he's done, you've seen it, it's gone viral. All right. He recently made a statement that has gone all across the globe. He's been on everybody from Angela Rye to little old now me, talking about his statement that until the White House opens up their doors, we're not opening up the church doors. We'll talk to him about it later. But would you do me a favor in the comment section with the clapping hands emoji if you have it? Can y'all just give it up for none other than my brother, Malcolm X Jr., Reginald Wayne Sharpe Jr.
What's up?
What's up, brother? You know I love you, man.
You all right, sis?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging on in this ship. It's a one-man band tonight, but I'm hanging on in there. How about yourself?
I am all right. All good. Well, I'm happy to be with you. Listen, y'all, if you don't know who this is, this is America's greatest young preacher.
No, man. No, look, they're giving you all the hand claps. They're excited.
Oh, y'all are so sweet. Thank you.
Pastor Reginald Wayne Sharpe. Listen, the good thing about settings like this is that when you have an authentic friendship with someone in ministry, it makes conversations so easy. And so what you're going to get tonight is really years of friendship. I'm telling you, I've known Reggie, probably about over 4 years now. And I'm just really, really excited to talk to him tonight, to sit down and chat with him. It happens so naturally. So what you're about to witness is really me talking to a friend of mine who I believe is more than fit to speak to the culture and the climate. So Reggie, tell me firstly, how have things been in Chicago amidst COVID? How are you readjusting or adjusting, to where we are right now?
Listen, first, thank you for inviting me on to your page, your platform. You are dope. We love you. Bree and I love you. And this nation is blessed to have you. So I'm honored to be with you. What's going on in Chicago? The same thing happening in every other city. People are lighting their cities up. I have never seen this like this in my lifetime. I've seen protests, and I've seen, but as you mentioned a little bit earlier, I've never seen protests in all 50 states. I saw a video in New Zealand. I saw a video in London. And the mayor in DC just painted the whole street.
Right. Black. Like a Beyonce move, the way she just boom, like it was no warning. It was like boom.
It was like, and here you have it. The whole street, Black Lives Matter Plaza in front of the White House. Like what?
Leading up to it. Yes.
I mean, it's so powerful, such a powerful statement. And I'm hopeful. Last week I was on an interview. I said I felt helpless because we can't stop racism. Like Black people can't stop this. Right. We need white allies and other people in power to feel and see the systemic problems in our nation. And I felt helpless, but I told them I'm not hopeless. And I'm not. I'm encouraged. We had a protest in Chicago on Tuesday. All the clergy. We had imams. We had rabbis. We had pastors from every denomination present. White, black, purple, blue, green. And when I tell you, I didn't realize how many people were outside.
Wow.
I had no idea. I see Mark Moore. That's another one.
I got to shout out my brother, my Preach Talk podcast co-host, visionary, of course, of that movement. YLC visionary. Y'all know him. Mark Moore is
the one and only.
all enough.
And I'm just gonna say this, and I'm gonna get back to the Chicago thing, but I can't wait till the day all three of us are able to get together and do something.
I'm gonna put him on this live, right? I promise you, before the end of this night, I'm gonna put him on here tonight. I promise you.
Well,
we are scheduled to run a revival, the three of us. Now, listen, in the comment section, how are y'all gonna feel when Reggie, Sharpe, Mark Moore, and I run a 3-night revival in the city of Atlanta? We've been talking about it for a few years, y'all.
We have.
Put that in the comment section. I want to hear what we're going to talk about. But now we're going to bring it. I don't know if we're going to bring it to Chicago, if we're going to bring it to Atlanta, but wherever y'all got
to come to fellowship. Y'all got to come to fellowship.
Listen, so Chicago has been, like every other city. But tell me this. The comments that you made, and I want to visit it before we start off. The comments that you made about reopening the doors of the church versus, how President Trump will not open the doors of the White House. Tell me in that statement, because that was about a week or so prior to the mass, chaos that we're seeing because of everything that fall out of specifically, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, as well as now George Floyd, which was almost like the cherry on top for us, right? So you made that comment a few weeks earlier. Tell me how that correlated to you in your mind, even about the racial tension or the spirit of racism that's embodied from the leadership of the country, because a lot of people felt like to make a statement like that as a president, to say, hey, let the churches go back in. A lot of people correlated that to a racial offense or gesture, because they felt like, President Trump was insinuating that African Americans would rush back to churches and we would, spike numbers of COVID cases. Like, tell me what that meant for you to make that statement that we're not going to open our doors until you open your doors.
It really started at home. We had some pastors here in Chicago who were protesting the mayor, begging her to open up the doors. Wow. And I was like, nah, just in case anybody's wondering where Sharpe stands, and just in case anybody's wondering where Fellowship stands, let me make this church announcement. Now, I grew up watching Ricky Smiley and Bernice Jenkins all my life. I never thought my church announcement would go viral. That's because that's all I was making. I was saying, hey, just in case you're wondering, this is where we stand. I see Ms. Walterine Johnson, a longtime member of Fellowship. I have to give her a shout out. But just in case anybody was wondering where I stood or where Fellowship stood, I was like, listen, we ain't coming back. And I was talking just as black as I could talk. We ain't coming back. Don't DM me. Don't inbox me. Don't cell phone me. Don't email me. We're not coming back until the White House opens, the government mansions open. And I was disturbed, Elder Pharaoh. I was disturbed at how Governor Kemp in Georgia was prematurely opening up the state of Georgia. I was like, wait a minute. And then when somebody questioned him on, is the governor's mansion open? He was like, no, it's not open. I said, wait a minute. Now there's some hypocrisy going on here. So you're going to open up nail salons, beauty salons, churches, but you won't open up your houses. You won't open up the spaces that are special to you. So in humor, in jest, with some levity, I made my announcement, not knowing 5 days later your wonderful president would make a demand on all of the country to, like, you all better open up your doors. It's a constitution of something, he said. I don't know. But no, I was just talking about what I was talking about.
Right. I mean, and
let me say this. This is important. Because behind that statement was the awareness that COVID-19 was disproportionately affecting Black people. And so when it seemed to me, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it just seemed to me, it seemed ironic to me that the minute we learned that it was affecting the Black community and communities of color, the Latinx communities, it was like, oh yeah, y'all open up everything, go on back. It's like, wait a minute, bro. We there are health disparities, there are health care disparities, there are educational disparities, there are disparities in resources in our community. And you know this, Dr. Fauci said this, and you ignored this. And I'm like, so since you won't care for the sheep, my job as a pastor is not just to feed the sheep, but it's to fight the wolves. So it was my own little way of fighting the wolves.
Well, I asked a question before we get shifted into the deep part of the conversation. I've heard a lot of people say to me, and with genuine concern, just as well as I think I've probably thought about it at some point myself, why do you think, and I know this is an opinion piece, it's an opinion conversation, we can't do this over. Why do you think that we are the support that we are seeing for the current sitting president, despite all of the negativity, all of the charges, all of the potential impeachment, all the things that we've seen. What do you believe that America is after in re-electing someone like a President Donald Trump?
There is a book, I cannot remember the title, but it's called America's Original Sin. America's original sin is racism. I saw a poster that somebody posted from a protest that said, racism is so entrenched in America that if you fight racism, people think you're fighting America. Like, did you catch that? So racism is so much a part of America that the minute somebody starts fighting racism, they automatically assume we're fighting America. It's America's original sin. From 1619, when the first enslaved African arrived on these shores, which is now 401 years ago this year. This country was built because of racism. This country was built on the backs of slaves. We didn't just have knees in our necks with George Floyd. We've had knees in our necks since we got here.
Right.
I was reading this book, and I point every live I get on. I pull up this book.
I see.
Coats Between the World and Me. He says on page 103, he writes the whole book as a letter to his young son, who's like 15 years old, and he tells them, "Son, I need you to understand this. It is traditional for America to destroy the black body. It's a part of our heritage." He's letting us know it's in the fabric, and so. There's a group, unfortunately, of people in this country that see nothing wrong with Dr. Donald Trump. They see nothing wrong. I don't know what kind of doctor he is, but they see nothing wrong with President Trump because they feel, I mean, he represents, what you say?
I said, I can give you a few things he's a doctor of.
Oh, yeah. For sure. But he represents white privilege. He represents racism. He represents sexism. He represents patriarchy. He represents power. And so there are people that love power so much that they don't even realize how their own whiteness, their own privilege gives them a power that everybody else doesn't have, that black folk don't have, that women don't have, that Latinos don't have, that the LGBTQ community doesn't have. And so when you live in this privilege, like some people right now are saying, Marissa, racism is a hoax, like it's a myth. Police brutality is a myth. It's all made up. And the truth is, it's like, wait a minute, your privilege allows you to say that.
Right.
Because if you're down here where we are on the ground, I know what it feels like to be a black man walking around Chicago. And I get nervous when I'm around white people sometimes, and I know I'm not doing anything and don't want anything, and could sometimes pay for their purse and everything they got in their purse. But my black skin is my sin, and they don't relate to that. They don't relate to that.
Skin is my sin. Wow. If you are just coming in this conversation, we are about to dive right into it, and I need y'all to come in, and I need you to share. You just had made a comment, and that's something I really want to talk to you about as a pastor. Being a man of faith, right? I know that men of faith, women of faith, we're expected to have a different level of confidence in life. But honestly speaking, the black man. The other day, and I was on the front lines of protests here in Baltimore, Maryland. I was talking to an officer who was a black woman, and I was disappointed in the fact that the crowds were yelling, "Take a knee," to all the officers, "Take a knee, take a knee." And for us, it was a matter of symbolism. You know, it was a matter of humility, thinking, do you believe that the life of George Floyd and all those names that we can go on, do you believe that they were worth the humility of just taking a knee? Now, mind you, every time an officer on that front line of that protest line took a knee, the crowd would go up in an uproar, just joyous, because, you know, it felt like the breaking of barriers, even if it was just in our own small part of the world. It felt like the breaking of barriers. There was a black woman there who would not take a knee. And the question that was raised to her, I asked her, "Do you take off your hat for the national anthem?" And the answer from many of them who would not take a knee was every time. And so I raised the question, and why is it that you cannot symbolically do the same for the life of an African American man who was taken from us? And so, on the front lines of these protests, we're raising these questions to these people. And I know that people of faith are expected to live differently. But in that moment, I said to that woman, I said, if you did not have that uniform on, and you were driving along a highway, and in the middle of the night, you were pulled over by a white officer without your credentials, they would not know the difference between who you are and who they are. You know what I'm saying? And so the truth of the matter is, at any given moment, Reggie, you could be pulled over by an officer who does not know fellowship, who does not know House of Hope, who does not know Reggie Sharpe. What is it like to be an African American living in America during the time of what is now a pandemic and a clandemic? I mean, we are literally watching history in so many ways repeat itself. From New York City, we've seen police officers driving through crowds of people. We've seen citizens driving through crowds of people. We now see the people revolting and driving over. There's so much. What does it honestly feel like, even as a man of faith, for you? Because I want you to talk to the people who may not be a pastor and who feel a little fear, because I want them to know what it is to be a person who believes in God and trusts in God, but really feels the reality of where they are right now. What does that feel like to you?
I mean, you've raised so many powerful points. And so when I thought about the riots and the protests, the quote of Dr. King came to my mind. Mm-hmm. And Dr. King said that riots are the language of the unheard. I think what I feel most of all is I feel unheard. I feel like, like the reason why the crowd went up every time somebody would take a knee, a police officer would take a knee, is because they felt heard. I preached last Sunday a sermon called America's Greatest Problem. And America's greatest problem is that we don't listen to each other. And I dealt with the text out of Pentecost, Acts 2, where they heard each other in their own language, and they could interpret each other in their own language. And when the Spirit is moving, church, a community, a nation, you can understand people you normally wouldn't be able to understand. So Democrats, when the Spirit is moving, Democrats can understand Republicans. When the Spirit is moving, white people understand black people. When the Spirit is moving, a straight person can understand a gay or lesbian person. When the Spirit is moving, a Jew can understand a Catholic, and a Buddhist can understand a Christian. It's like we don't hear each other, and nobody's asking us to agree. Nobody's asking you to agree with everything, but do you shut your mouth long enough to listen? Donald Trump is talking about, we're going to dominate the streets, and I'm the president of law and order. And he said today that George Floyd is looking down and should be proud that the economy is stronger than it's ever been through this pandemic. Our president said that today. I mean, when I say he has added zero mature leadership, he has added zero moral leadership in this crisis. And so what it feels to be a black man, it's that book by, I think it's Richard Wright, He wrote a book, The Invisible Man. That's what it feels like. It feels invisible. It feels like people look over you. I walk sometimes in my neighborhood just to breathe and just to a moment of self-care. And there are white people that jog right by you with their beautiful dogs. And I think to myself, that dog means more to them than my life. And the feelings of ontological invisibility, the feelings of being ontologically unheard, ignored, unseen. Sometimes what black folk are looking for is for somebody in power just to lean over the balcony of their own privilege and say, we see you, we hear you, we understand that you're suffering. We get that your skin, unfortunately, has put you in a place that's harmful. We know everything's not going to change overnight. But if people in power could just stop long enough and say, black man, black woman, we feel you, we see you, we get it, it is wrong, and we're going to work to change things. That's what it feels like. And I get why people walk away from the faith. I get why people are atheists. I don't agree, but I understand. because when you're living in this world, you're like, where's God in all of this? Like, how do you reconcile your blackness with religion? Luckily, it's Ralph Ellison. Thank you. Richard Wright wrote another book. Now, that's one of my ministers, Elder Devona, getting her PhD. Ralph Ellison wrote the book.
Gave it to us too. I don't know if you're familiar with Pastor McCorn.
I know the good president from Lord, I can't think of the college that he's the president of. Forgive me, Elder. You know I love you. But yeah.
Is it Clinton?
Say it again.
Is it Clinton and Rockville?
That's it.
But listen, so you said you understand, but you don't agree you understand. So speak to a young black man who may very well be asking that question, where's God in this? Who has turned to some sense of anger and frustration. What sort of advice or wisdom do you have for young black men across this country right now? Because here's the difference. There are some people who are on the front lines protesting, but then there are others who feel like America owes them something. And so there's this spirit of enraged behavior versus righteous indignation. How can you, as a black leader, how can you point people, specifically millennials, to a place of strategy and wisdom as far as how we move versus what we start doing when we just feel angry, rioting and looting and stealing and destruction? How can we point people in a better direction?
Well, it's two things I want to say. Number one, black folks were handed a corrupted Christian religion. And we handed them back. We handed our white slaveholders back a corrected. And so that's the people in the barbershop, beauty shop talk. You know, I gotta, you know, y'all got a white Jesus and you got a white faith and Christianity is white. I'm like, hold on. We were handed a corrupt religion, but we handed them back a corrected religion. Let me say this. What I mean is they handed us a religion where they did exactly what Trump did. He stood there with his Bible over our heads. He hadn't read it. You know, he's holding a Bible that doesn't hold him the principles of love, righteousness, justice, peace, religion. Right. None of that holds him. But he's holding the Bible over people just like the white slaveholders held the Bible over us. And they were saying, slaves, obey your master. Render to Caesar's what Caesar. They were quoting all of that, but we got the Bible, not even having the ability to read, and we were able to respond. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. So while they found a religion of condemnation, white folks, we found a religion of liberation, where God is the God that gets in the fire with us, with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. God is the God that goes and opens the Red Sea. God is the God that even after the crucifixion and lynching of Jesus on Friday, he's the God of the resurrection. So I hold on to a faith, it's very simple, that means God is with us. Like James Cone said, he's the God of the oppressed. God is with us. God is not with people in power crushing people. God is with those who are suffering. God is with those, as Howard Washington Thurman said, he's Jesus and the disinherited. God is with the marginalized. God is with the forgotten. God is with those who are crying tears under the weight of a neighborhood that's been looted. God is on our side. And so I can't depend on the omnipotence of God, which means God's power. I depend on the omnipresence of God. And that's God's presence. And God may not get me out of everything because we all got free will, but God is with me in everything. So that's how I've been able to hold my faith through this. So when I'm protesting, when I'm fighting, and let me say this about this looting and rioting and all this stuff, America is the chief looter. America is the chief rioter. America was violent first. And so when we peacefully protest with Colin Kaepernick and Dr. King and all of these wonderful, peaceful things, America don't understand that.
Right.
And I've been telling people all week, America is just like I was, and probably you were too when we were little, and we run around the house, and grandmama and daddy and mama said, baby, sit down. And we kept running. Baby, I said, sit down. And we kept running. And then finally, here comes a belt around the neck. My mama get her shoe one of them flats that she put on after church is over. And now she come through the living room with that flat. She come through the living room with that belt. And she said, I said, sit down. Mama, why are you yelling at me? Why are you trying to hit me? Because you didn't understand me when I was talking to you nicely. Right. So hear me when I say this. We can critique looting, we can critique rioting, we can critique protesting, we can critique violent movements and acts of rebellion and uprisings. But let me tell you a secret. America didn't hear us when we said it nicely, but they have heard us when we start damaging their property, which is why, Marissa, I don't mean to talk so long, but I'm trying to help somebody, which is why America is more comfortable with a King than they are a Malcolm. King was nonviolent. King was a teacher and a leader, a drum major of peace. Mm-hmm. And he was not a pacifist, but he did say, hey, we're not going to win them with violence. Malcolm X said, you shoot me, I'm shooting back. You don't care about my body, I protect my body. America don't like that because now you're damaged. Now your property is about to be damaged. Now your buildings are about to be destroyed. Now your cities have to pay to rebuild again. So this week and last week, we got America's attention like we haven't had in a long time because their stuff got ruined. And it's okay. Watch this, Marissa, and I'm going to shut up. God can show up in the violence. God can show up in the rioting. And if all things work together, we've got to trust that even when a grocery store is shut down, a building is destroyed, if it got somebody's attention, don't spend more time talking about the what if you don't talk about the why. The why is you had your knee on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 40 plus seconds and he's dead. The why is Breonna Parker's still alive, thank God. Breonna Taylor is dead and shouldn't be. Ahmaud Arbery is dead and shouldn't be. And we just discovered this week that they killed him, shot him 3 times with a shotgun, hit him, and called him an N-word when they finished killing him. That's why we looted. That's why we protested. That's why we rioted. And before you critique the effects, you better deal with the cause. And I'm going to stop right there.
And that's good because actually when it takes me into where I was headed with this. Thank you. We see Dr. Martha Simmons is on here. Everybody knows that. She is a critic, amen, of preachers and a preacher of herself. Listen, one of the things that she was bringing out was where I was going with this. We start to talk about how strategy is necessary for those of us in the Black community. And I think that message is important because when we become angry, unfortunately, because sometimes, just like you said, we can feel helpless in this thing. At the end of the day, all of this, I said the other day, unfortunately, will not be an activation of healing, but what it will be is another demonstration of our frustration. In many ways, I do know, and I have reckoned within myself, that because racism is systematic in nature, it is generational, and it is taught and has been taught and passed down from generation to generation. It's going to take generations to, if ever, to undo what has been done. The damage has been done, right? So the long and short of it is that even why, and one of the points to Dr. Simmons' point, the message that I wanted portrayed to young Black men and women across the country, because at the end of the day, no matter how many major looters we have in the system of capitalism in American societies and the way they operate, we still have to give a message to the community people to keep them out of what could very well be another hashtag. Because at the end of the day, no matter what America does to us, if we do it back, we're going to get in trouble for it. And so there is a message there. But what you talked about was so key. You know, you can't get into the what without getting into the why. And one of the things that she pointed out, which I love and I think is so key, is that America has been the biggest looter. I mean, literally, we talk about just last week having received the statistics of knowing that big businesses have pocketed over $1 billion of stimulus money that was designed for small business owners and small businesses. What do we do? What do we say? How do we speak to individuals who have been struggling, who are small business owners, and we have America taken out of the pockets. I mean, every single day. It is something that a conversation won't change, unfortunately. It is something. Now, let me tell you what will help change it, voting. And let me just plug that right there, because it is a dangerous thing when we have 50,000 people out protesting, and those same 50,000 did not go to vote. Okay. That is a very, very
that's real
huge issue. And so, but what are we saying? What are we doing? I mean, honestly, sometimes asking these questions, Reggie, it feels like you're just repeating yourself. But what are we saying about the state of our capitalistic society that's taken out of the communities of not just small business owners who are Black, but there are many small business owners who are even white, who are Latino, who are Italian, who have not received the benefits that have been so-called laid out for small businesses. What are we saying?
Well, I think that's a part of the rage. You know, James Baldwin says to be a Negro and conscious in this country is to be almost enraged all the time. I mean, that's where the rage comes from. It's like you critiquing us for rioting. We were rioting. You destroyed Tulsa, Oklahoma. You destroyed Black communities that had their own thriving businesses. You've destroyed so many communities with redlining and unfair property taxes and disproportionately pushing Black communities and Black schools and Black neighborhoods to the side and not giving them the resources that they need. And so some of the rage and the protests that you see is not just because of George Floyd. It's because of years and hundreds of years of the same old. And we're saying enough is enough. Now, hear me. This is overwhelming.
Yes, sir.
Your question is overwhelming, but it's the question of the souls for all Black people. For all people of color, for all people of minority. And this is what I want to say, because I've wrestled with this as a pastor and as a preacher, because I want to go to heaven and be responsible. I want to get to the gates, and the Lord tells me, you did help somebody. So here's how we help the people. We cannot all, yes, we got to vote. Amen to what you said. We've got to vote. And I believe if we all focus our energy, we can at least get this asinine man. That's the best thing I got right now, because something else was coming. We can at least get this asinine man. You know, I like
you feel it, Doc.
You know, preachers like alliteration, and I was on my way. We can at least get this asinine man out of the White House.
Yes,
we can do it, and we can vote on a local level to make sure there are people that are held accountable on a local level and on a state level. And on a federal level. So we can't just vote for presidents. We got to vote for senators and commissioners and House representatives and congresswomen and congressmen. We've got to vote for the people that are going to lead our districts right here in Chicago. Voting is an answer. Somebody just wrote that, Miss Betty Magnus. She's one of Push's, listen, she's a secret force behind Reverend Jackson's push here. But voting is an answer, and it's not the only answer. Here's another option. One day when the Emmanuel 9 happened, when those 9 lives were lost in Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015, I held a prayer vigil in Macon, Georgia. Brought the sheriff, the DA, pastors, everybody in Macon was in that church that night. And there were pastors that said, I'm not coming because this is a waste of time. I said, wait, hold on. I said, just because you take a rock and drop it in a lake and it just creates a ripple does not mean that you are not participating in change. Now, you may not immediately create a wave of transformation, but everybody has to get their rock, get your pebble, throw it into the lake of society and create a ripple of change, and trust that God, trust that time will transform that little ripple into a big wave. So what are you saying, Reggie? I'm saying, let the preachers preach. Let the poets write. Let the teachers teach. Let the legislators legislate. Let the voters vote. Let the people protest. Let the rioters riot. Everybody do what you got to do. If you're a writer, write. If you work in economics, do that. If you work in the area of housing and real estate, do that. If you work in the area of religion and theology, do your work. If you're a student, do your work. And if you're an artist or you're a singer, if you're a rapper, do your work. And when you throw your little pebble into the lake of time, it may be a little ripple. But I promise you, if we all throw our pebble, it'll become a wave of transformation and change. We got to use our platforms. And somebody said, well, I ain't no big preacher. I'm not a big politician. You got a Facebook page. And instead of you posting selfies of your body and your anatomy, how curvaceous you are, you can post something that's woke. You can post something that's going to change. Everybody has to do our part in this season, or else we're going to be overwhelmed and we're not going to do anything. But do your part. Do your part.
That's important. I think everybody should do their part. And the good thing is that brings us to a place where I can interject this next portion of the conversation.
Come on.
Doing our part. Reggie Sharpe, can I be honest with you? I believe that in my 3 days on the front line of the protest, being both preacher and clergy, and then also doing photojournalism. Anyone who follows me knows that I'm avid in photography, and to be able to capture this moment for me was a big deal. But on the front lines of that protest, as I look through my images, as I look back through my day, I can earnestly say that I believe, and this is a good thing, but I'm also trying to figure out what it's speaking to. I can earnestly say that I've seen more people of Caucasian descent on the front lines of the protest, either more or just as many as African Americans. Now, it's a good thing because I saw some signs that just really spoke hope to me to see, Caucasian brothers and sisters saying, one lady said, I'm 66. I can't believe I'm still protesting this, white woman. And I thought that was amazing. Wow. Here's a white woman at 66 who doesn't feel like she has to clutch her purse around a room full of black people. She's wondered why this lady. But I'm telling you, there's been a slight disappointment in me because I feel like I haven't seen those of us who should be fighting for this. And that's going to lead me into my next question, which is going to be a little bit juicy because we're going to get into it because we're going to take it from the streets to the church. But right now, what does it say to us, Reggie, that we are seeing, and now another point of that is Dr. Sharpton, Reverend Sharpton did a great eulogy yesterday for George Floyd. And in that, he started talking about this is a new era. He talked about how at one point we were fighting for civil rights. At one point, we were fighting for women's rights. At one point in the era, we were fighting for voters' rights. In this era, we are fighting against police brutality. He was talking about how he's seen a shift in the tide, that there is not as many Caucasian individuals that you would think who carry an alt-right mentality or, a white supremacist mentality. And so what is it, though, that we are seeing there? I feel there's a pressure of us. I feel we need to do more. So we're talking about what do you think is it a positive? We're seeing more white people, Caucasian, engaged in this kind of fight, or is it a disappointment that we don't see black communities?
So ask that last part again, because my screen started freezing and I missed it, and I was listening hard as I could. So give me that last part.
I'm asking in general, is it a good thing that we're seeing more Caucasian brothers and sisters fighting for the cause, or is it a bad thing that we're seeing a lack of presence of African Americans fighting for this cause?
Well, I think it's both now, and there are moments that wake people up. There are moments that just shake people to their core. I was on an interview earlier today with one of our, here go Dr. Martha Simmons again. Dr. Martha Simmons, do you want to come on the live? And I, listen, I just get off. You come on.
I'm I'm saying she got good stuff. She got good stuff.
Yes, she does. I love her. So listen, this is my point. It is a great thing that we need white allies. Yes. We need white allies. We need people who have the privilege, who have some of the power, who have influence in their own communities to say, stop that. I remember in college when I was awakened to a new consciousness about gay people, because I'm at Morehouse, all male, and there were gay guys there. And so I came in, little Baptist preacher holding my Bible, walking to class. And I'm just as holy as I
Afro still die.
Yeah, with the afro, all that. And And I had my thoughts about gay folk. And over time, I realized that you got to be careful how you talk about people who are not like you. You got to be careful. So when folk will be around me calling them the F word, that rhymes with maggot, it became my job to say, hey, that's derogatory. The same way when we're absent and white folk are talking and somebody drops the N word, somebody has to be in the room to say, hey, that's inappropriate. You don't talk like that. When I'm in a room with my brothers and somebody's describing a woman as a B or a H or a T and all of those consonants, right. I say, hey, bro, we ain't got to. And somebody will say, hey, hold on, because the fight for sexism needs men to realize their privilege. The fight against racism, we need white folk to fix their privilege and address their privilege. So I'm so encouraged to see white people out there. And I think black folk are just tired in this country because, like that woman said, I'm 66 or whatever, how old she was, I'm still fighting for this. Dean Carter, my mentor from Morehouse, the dean of the chapel, he was like, I'm 80 now. I'm almost 80.
Wow.
I'm concerned. This is what he said to me last Sunday. He said, I'm concerned that I got to go to my grave and the issue of racism still hasn't been fixed.
Wow.
Like, he's getting closer to the sunset of his life. He's like, I got to go to my grave and we haven't found any meaningful solutions for this yet. So I am happy to see white folk, and we need them. We need their support to fix this. And the second part of your question is, what's waking us up while we're not out there? I think we're out there now because if you think back, Marissa, when Emmett Till's mama, Mamie Till, used photography and media to show what those folks did to her baby in Mississippi, something woke up in the consciousness of America, no matter what color you were. Dr. King intentionally said, I need a photographer and I need video to capture these protests. So y'all, these dogs biting these children, so y'all can see these fire hoses, hosing people down like they're nothing in the street. And when people started seeing it, consciousness. Racism ain't new, it's just being recorded, somebody said.
Right.
It's a difference in me telling you the officer had his knee on that man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And it's a whole nother thing when you got to sit there and watch it. So I think the media, social media, cameras, camera phones, thank God for them. Because what about the white lady in the park? And I don't call them Caucasian, call them what they are. Ta-Nehisi Coates calls them the people who believe themselves to be white. Because race ain't real.
Right.
It is a construct that was formed.
Oh man, that's good, Reginald.
Race ain't real. It's a construct that was formed to privilege a certain group of people. Wow. It ain't. We all human. Now in America, we feel racism.
That's good.
We live in it, but race ain't real. We're all humans, no matter our color. And so if you don't quote it right, somebody's gonna misinterpret what I said. And I'm all right with it. At this point, I've gone viral. I go viral again. It's okay.
Listen, so that takes me into this. And listen, this is a key time. We got about like 10, we got to go a little over 15 more minutes. So I'm about to ask a real question. Y'all, I need y'all to hit that share button if you ain't already hit it, because we're about to get into this. The other day, we all watched as a clip and a comment went viral. Hey, Danielle Brown, love you, sis. And as we watched the comment go viral from a pastor in the UK, who was a white man, who was pastor of, I believe, Hillsong UK, who said that because he is not in a pastor in the US, it doesn't make sense for him to continuously make statements on what's going on in the US. What is it that Black Christian leaders are feeling as you being a pastor? I can only speak from an evangelistic standpoint because that's the level that I'm at. But for a pastor in the Black church, what does it feel like, and what is the message that you have even in response to white evangelicals who do nothing? Because at the end of the day, silence often equals violence, and it often equals, in many senses, assimilation and even sometimes support. how should we, the church, take it? How should we respond? And what should the message be to individuals who are watching white evangelicals sit down and say nothing on the issues of race relations in this country?
That I saw that video, and what I will say is that's his privilege talking. Congratulations. You are privileged enough to ignore racism if you choose to. But I can't ignore it because the skin I'm in and the skin that my little brother's in and the skin that you're in, the skin my wife is in, we don't have the privilege to ignore it. So congratulations to all of you white pastors who love Jesus and who love the church and love God, but you don't understand that you have a responsibility to do justice, Micah 6:8, to love mercy and to walk humbly with God. Congratulations to you. And what I will say is those people are fans of Jesus and not followers of Jesus.
That's what I was about to say. Yep.
Yeah. You're a fan. You're a fan. You just love the name of Jesus, but you don't have the nature of Jesus. You know, it's a difference in loving Jesus' name and following Jesus' nature. If you love his name, then you have church, you sing your worship songs, you go home, you go to your nice house, go to sleep. When you're a follower of Jesus and you have the nature of Jesus, you are a rebel, you're counterintuitive, you're countercultural, you fight the status quo, you get kicked out of churches, and there's a cross coming. Yeah, because if most of us preached like Jesus, some of us wouldn't have a church.
Yeah.
But because we don't preach like Jesus, we're safe, it's easy. Half of Jesus' ministry didn't even take place in the temple or the synagogue. It had to take place outside because every time he went up in there, they were running him out.
Yep.
But we are so comfortable with our privilege and our capitalism, and it ain't just white folks. Oh, there's some Oreos. You know what an Oreo is. We got Oreos in the pulpit.
Black on the outside and white on the inside. Uncle Tom in the pulpit.
The black church was formed as an act of resistance against white supremacy, racism, and slavery. And we have lost our purpose. And so now we look like white churches.
Absolutely.
Now, I mean, we so caught up in praise and worship. We so caught up in, hallelujahs and caught up in the lights, the cameras, the screens. And we forgot we're supposed to be fighting for people. We're supposed to be fighting for the marginalized and the forgotten. And that's what Jesus is. And he said, if any man is going to follow me, if any woman is going to follow me, if any person follows me, you must take up your cross daily, Luke says, and follow me, which means that the authentication that we're a true follower of Jesus is that we have some splinters on our shoulders, that it costs you something. That you might go viral for a statement. You might lose a few members. You might miss a few offerings and tithes and offerings. But at the end of the day, when you get to heaven, God can look at you and say, well done. Yeah. For many of us, we preach Jesus. Oh, this is the quote of the night, Marissa. You better get it.
I'm ready.
Many of us preach Jesus, but we don't preach like Jesus.
Wow. Don't preach like Jesus. I got it. I'm in the comment section right now, Doc. But listen,
we don't preach like Jesus.
And this is what I want to then go a step further. What are we? Because I'm only going to ask you this because you're my brother, and I know you ain't afraid to answer it. What should we be saying to people who are following pastors who are afraid to attack the real issues? Because what you just pointed out, it shows a very blatant yet underlying lack of consciousness for community, for people, and for the ministry of Jesus. So what should people who are following pastors who are afraid to address racism, white and black, what should we be saying to those members? Because when I put on Instagram the other day, a lot of people ask questions. One of the questions that came up twice in my inbox was, I'm a millennial leader and I believe in that I need to be woke. I believe that I should be doing something, but I'm under a pastor who does not address it. What should we be saying to members? Now, I ain't, I'm never somebody to be like, oh, just leave your church. But what do you believe? And I trust your wisdom. It's sound advice for people who are following pastors like that, or who are following pastors who have not yet awakened to the sense of their need and the urgency of their need in the community.
Well, let me start, and I think that's a brilliant question. Let me start with my own experience. I don't know who coined the phrase, but I will say this. Somebody said, we're not called to be successful, we're called to be faithful. Mm-hmm. And so we have to stop measuring the success of our ministries off of how many people join, off of how many services we have, and off of how many people tune into our services virally. Like, we have to stop using capitalistic measuring sticks. Instead, measure your success, measure the success of your ministry based off of the truth that you speak. And somebody said things, Audrey Lord, you speak the truth even if your voice shakes. We need courageous leaders. We need courageous preachers who are not in it for the likes, but they're in it to save lives. If you're in it to be liked, you won't care about people's lives. And so, because I care about people's lives, there are things that I say that could very well get me in trouble. I mean, I got a death threat on Monday.
No.
Because, I got a death threat on Monday because of the rhetoric.
Because, we don't play them types of games.
Well, you ain't got to worry about that, because I don't just have angels. I got people with angles. You hear me?
Okay. We don't play that thing.
We have some objects with right angles, and I've had right angels.
Faith, no peace. Hallelujah.
You need peace and peace. Amen.
Peace and peace.
So my point is, real Christian, radical Jesus preaching will get you in trouble, and you have to be that. So I want to say that to the preachers. We need courage, we need compassion, and we have to be concentrated on our calling and not on the finances, or if people are going to leave because we say something that's truthful. But another thing that's deeper than that, we need a conversation about theology. We need a conversation about hermeneutics and homiletics, because you got to look for liberation in the text. It's easy to preach the top, David and Joseph,
right,
and all those famous leaders in the Bible,
right,
Moses and the woman with the issue of blood. Those are the famous stories. But what about the people underneath the text? What about those mothers, those women, those lepers that were on the margins of the side, blind Bartimaeus,
right,
Bartimaeus who was blind? What about those people? We have to make sure. Look at these folks. Y'all so hood. Are y'all? Listen, y'all can't be holy for being hood. Look at you. Look at you.
Listen, Doc, they here for you.
Let me
we
tell
can
you.
Have a riot right on the front line of Chicago, because baby, we don't play about Reggie Sharpe.
They don't want these hands. And they don't want these hands. No, I'm covered for it. Chicago don't play about their pastors, and I know Fellowship don't play about me and Bree, so I love y'all. Thank you for that. But let me get back to what I was saying. To the members who are in churches where your pastor does not speak what needs to be spoken, talk to them. Send an email. Let them know I'm discouraged that I don't hear this. I'm discouraged that I don't hear that my life, my experience is being preached about. You're not speaking to me. You're talking past me. You're talking over me. Can you include me? And be respectful about it. Be honorable. Be deferential about it as much as you can. Can you talk to me and my family? Can you talk to me and my son? How do I raise my son? And it got to be more than Jesus wept and kumbaya. It got to be more than love everybody. No, talk to me about the real systemic issues going on and how I'm to navigate that. And what are y'all doing as a church to help people not on the top, but those who are at the bottom as well? I think that's a good way to do it. And if they don't listen to you, it's all right to leave. You can leave and go find a ministry that's doing real work for the community.
Wow. And I mean, I think it's important for us to address the fact that,
wait. Who is uniquely Maggie?
I don't say that this hand will swing when needed. The Saints are not playing. Hilarious. Is this your mother-in-law?
That's my mother-in-law. Yep, Miss Vivian. Mama Vivian.
How you doing, Mama Vivian? So listen, I think that it's imperative that we be clear about the fact. And I think if Dr. Martha Simmons was here, she would have a whole lot more to say if she was on this live right now. I think it is imperative, though, that we identify the fact that racism does not just exist in politics and politicians. Unfortunately, there is racism right in the church. Those who call themselves followers of Jesus Christ, but do not follow his commands, and who do not even observe his ministry as being who Jesus truly was. I borrowed the words from Pastor Jamal Brown yesterday. He said, to another black man who was considered a thug, considered a criminal, and murdered by a government system that could not stand him, but to the one who rose again on the third day. The truth of the matter is, we do not just see racism in the White House or even in the world, but it is right here in the church. And I believe that it is imperative that we as the church begin to call these things out as they are. We have got to stand up with righteous indignation. Now, I think that it is imperative that we also have wisdom and use wisdom in the way that we approach it, but I do believe that much like what you were describing, even in the book of Jesus and this inherited, it talks about a political Jesus. It talks about a Jesus who, like you talked about, fought for the marginalized, and one who stood for those who weren't just sinners, but those who were less fortunate and those who were not as privileged. Even when we think about some of the miracles that Jesus performed, it wasn't to those who had the status quo, who were birthed into wealth, who were, it was Jesus always meeting those who came from unique situations. Even the blind man who was born blind, it was no particular thing that happened to him. He was just born blind. He was born unfortunate. And Jesus is still meeting the needs of the unfortunate. Reggie, Sharpe, go ahead, dive in.
Let me tell you something. You're talking me into a shout. And the reason why Jesus could stand with them, fight for them, defend them, speak to them, is because he was them.
He was them.
Jesus was poor.
Jesus was them.
Jesus was disinherited.
Yes,
Jesus was oppressed.
Yes, sir.
Jesus was a poor Jew who struggled. He said, I have nowhere to lay my head. He was a nomad. He traveled. He lived in the streets. He had to borrow a man's boat. He had to borrow a boy's lunch. When he was buried, he borrowed a man's tomb. Told him, I'll get this back in a few minutes, but hold on.
Right.
He went through his whole life borrowing and renting and can I use this? He understood what it was to struggle. And a lot of why white pastors miss it, and a lot of these privileged black pastors miss it, is because when you have been blessed to live in these mansions, live in these lofts, live in these great cities, just because you live there, you should not forget that the people that follow you, support your ministry, look a whole lot like Jesus. So we got to start off with on the front line and understand that we have a savior. Wait now, we have not a high priest who has not been touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but at all points he was tempted like we. We have a Jesus that knows what it feels like to be oppressed, to be rejected, to be forgotten, to be betrayed, to be killed, and to be lynched.
Yeah.
And so we stand with that Jesus. And when you stand with that Jesus, you have no choice but to find the people on the margins. And then just think about a piece of paper. All these big words, marginalized. What does that mean? Look at your piece of paper or no. I wish I had a piece.
There's a margin. Talk about
it. Look at the margins on the paper. Look, you see that little space at the end on both sides of the paper? That's the margins. Everybody else is living on the main part of the paper. Thank you, Marissa. And we over here in the corner. We over here on the sidewalk. We over here in the crevices. And that's where Jesus is. Oh, that's where he is. And I'm so glad that he's with us.
Listen, Doc, and that's the truth of the matter. And I believe that it is time. I do believe that it is time that just as we call out racism in the White House, just as we call out racism in the world and in companies and in corporations, it is time for us as leaders to start calling out racism in the church. That's why I unashamedly would share, and I shared these posts of these white evangelicals who carry the message of Jesus but do not carry the ministry of Jesus. You cannot You cannot separate the two. There is no possible way that you can carry his message and not carry his ministry. His ministry was to those who look like us. And so I tell people all the time, we got a special kind of anointment on our lives, that we are blessed. We are the chosen people. I think that we are those same people, that are the chosen of God. The Bible, much of the Bible Chronicles is the story of the children of Israel, that promised generation. And I believe that that's us, because I'm telling people all the time, the more they kill us, the more they get mad, because we like the Israelites. The more they try to kill us, the more we multiply. The more they try to oppress, the more we spring up. And I believe that it is time for us to be unashamed about calling this out. And I think that it's time for the leaders of the church to eliminate and alleviate that spirit of fear. And many of them are scared of losing their platforms. Many of them are scared of losing their dollar. Many of them are scared of losing their members. But the devil is a liar. The time is cut out for people carrying the name of Jesus, but carrying the ministry of Jesus Christ. It's impossible. It's impossible. Pastor Reggie, I gotta get you off this thing, man. People are sitting here asking, "Oh, we're gonna have a part 2 of this." Listen, let me ask you this: what is millennial leaders during this time, and where can they stand in their own communities? Whether it's some people are wanting to organize different events, and not just marches, but other events that are surrounding race relations. What is your advice to millennial leaders on where we should stand during this time and how we should stand during this time? As we prepare to close, I want you to give that message. But then after you give that message, I'm going to come back and probably reiterate it. But I also want you to give a message of hope to those who are watching tonight for the current climate and the culture of where we are in America today. But what's your advice to millennial leaders who want to organize but don't really know where to begin?
Let me say this. First of all, every great revolution in this country was started by young people, because younger people ain't scared. When you get older, you start thinking about all the details, all the specificities. Well, who gonna say this? Now, who we gonna invite? Who gonna speak? Who gonna be the chairperson or the president? Well, who do we call? When you young, you got fire in your eyes, and you like, let's go. I don't care who shows up. I don't care who the president is of the organization. But what we gonna call it? Are we gonna call it the alliance? Are we gonna call it the coalition? Are we gonna call it the protest? Are we gonna call it? I don't care what you call it. Let's get out in these streets and let's make some noise. And if we got to tear something down, we're gonna tear it down. If we got to call somebody out, we're gonna call it out. Let's go. Dr. King was 26 when he started leading in Montgomery, Alabama, with a whole PhD. He started leading. He had a choice to be the next president of Morehouse. He had a choice to work with Lyndon Baines Johnson in the White House. He said, no. And that's the clean version. He said, no, I'm going to stand with my people and I'm going to fight for my people. And he made noise. And it's Fannie Lou Hamers, and it's September Poinsett Clarks, and it's Rosa Parks, and it's Ella Bakers, and it's Diane Nash, and it's Angela Davis's, and it's Malcolm X's and Medgar Evers, and names that we don't even know, who were in the trenches fighting, and they were young. So what I'm saying is, be fearless. I'm not going to tell you just protest, but if you're getting your JD degree, if you're getting your MDiv or your DMin, if you're getting a degree in organizational leadership, whatever you do, if you are Black in this country, for God's sake, make sure that you use, and we use, our platforms, our microphones, our privilege, our degrees, our influence to help our people. And whatever your fight is, do that. If you're going to focus on education, do it. If you're going to focus on economics, do it. If you're going to focus on the criminal justice, injustice system, do that. If you're going to focus on poverty and food insecurities, do that. If you're going to focus on housing, do that. Do whatever you do, but don't be guilty of God blessing you with all this power, privilege, and platform, and you say nothing and you do nothing to help your people. Just breathe justice. Do justice. That's what Micah 6:8 says. It didn't say talk about it. It didn't say preach about it. It said do it. Do justice. And that's what I hope all millennials understand. We have a time and an opportunity right now like never before with our social media pages. I mean, anything. Like, let's do it.
Wow. Give to us a message for us out here who are frustrated and overwhelmed because we are in the middle of a pandemic and a clandemic all at once. We are trying to survive a pandemic and trying to fight a clandemic. Doc, I need you to use your microphone. Take this platform, give us a level of inspiration. I'm going to pray and I'm going to get us out of here. Listen, if y'all want a part 2 with Dr. Pastor Leader, my friend and brother, Pastor Reggie Sharpe, and I may invite on about 3 other strong young Black leaders. I want y'all to drop in that comment section that y'all here for it, that y'all want to be in it, so y'all gonna watch it. Go ahead and drop it in that comment section. Pastor Reggie, give to us a message of hope, a message of leadership, a message of wisdom as a pastor in this time. Give to us something we can hold on to as we fight and as we survive this moment.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, sis. We love you. I want to tell you what God told Joshua in chapter 1, verse 9. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Strength is physical. Courage is mental. You can be strong and have no courage, and you can have courage and have no strength. But whatever you do, I want you to focus on that courageous part. We need courage. Maya Angelou said, without courage, you cannot practice any virtue consistently. If you're going to be a preacher, you got to have courage. If you're going to be a politician, you have to have courage. If you're going to be a mother, a father, a student, a teacher, a professor, whatever, an activist, it takes courage. Be strong and courageous. And then the last part of that verse later on in Joshua 1, he says it again. He says like 3 times, be strong, courageous, be strong, courageous. And that last time he says, and I will be with you whithersoever you goeth. That's the King James Version. He says, you be strong, you be courageous, but when you've done everything that you can do, know that God is with you. Know that the same God who stepped out on an invisible platform of nothingness and reached back into the archives of the universe, grabbed the blueprints of tomorrow, and somehow out of nothing made everything, that God is with you. The God that put the sun on day shift, the moon on night shift, that God is with you. The God that made water wet, sky blue, grass green, gave the hyena his laugh, the lion his roar, the roaches run, the cat is meow, the dog is bark. That God is with you. The God that creates highways out of no ways and red seas, God is with you. The God that takes the heat out of fire in the fiery furnace, that God is with you. The God who can stand up in the middle of chaos and create cosmos, that God is with you. The God that can allow his sun to go down on Friday but get up on Sunday with all power in his hands, that God is with you. The God of Maya Angelou, the God of Ella Baker, the God of Frederick Douglass, the God of Garner C. Taylor, the God of Martin Luther King and Coretta, the God of Michelle and Barack, the God of Jeremiah Wright, that God is with you. And when you are courageous, and when you are strong, and when you don't care what people think, and when you ain't worried about being liked, you walk your Black self into every room you go in, knowing that you are smart, knowing that you is important, knowing that you are intelligent, and the God of the universe backs you up every step of the way. And when it's your turn to walk into the foyer of eternity, all you want to hear God say is, well done. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your life. Fight for your people, and God is with you.
Ooh, Doc, they said tune up the Hammond. Tune up the Hammond. See, right here. This is what he does it. There's nobody that can look there run but no Wayne Sharpe Jr. Listen, y'all, this is why he is my favorite young preacher. Let the record show. Marissa Farrell has a pastor, and his name is Reginald Wayne Sharpe Jr. All right, that's my second pastor because I still got Reverend Dr. Elaine McCollins Blake. Okay, so listen, right. I am just so wow. I can't. The people are shouting all in these comments, Doc. I'm just saying the people are here. They're excited about it. Listen, y'all, I'm excited about tonight. This is a great conversation. I am throwing somebody a graduation birthday party downstairs, but I had to pause to talk to my friend Reginald Wayne Sharpe Jr. because I knew that he was going to provide insight, he was going to provide wisdom, and he was going to provide theology about the current climate and the current culture. This is a conversation that needs to continue. I'm going to find a way to get on Reginald Wayne Sharpe Jr.'s schedule, and I'm going to make sure that we can bring this conversation back to you all. I want to tell you thank you for tuning in tonight to this special edition of Friday Night Fill Up. We went over our hour time, but I promise you, it was worth it, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. Pastor Sharpe, We want to say thank you, man. We love you, Lady Bree. We love you. And I'm just so grateful and so glad that both of you have given your time. Please get me Lady Bree's Instagram name. I want everybody, if you weren't here at the beginning, Lady Bree, his beautiful wife, Brianna Sullivan Shaw. She is
That's her name.
her debut single Free, and I'm so excited about it. If you want to remember her name, it rhymes with the song Free and Bree. All right, so y'all just put those things together in your head. Give me her Instagram, Pastor Sharpe, because we want to follow her. Give me your Instagram. We want to follow you so that we can make sure that we are up to date with everything that the Sharpes got going on. Because I'm trying to tell y'all, this is my Martin and my Coretta. Y'all follow them wherever they are. Reggie, your Instagram is RW Sharpe Jr. Am I right about it?
Yeah, that's right.
And what's Lady
RW Sharpe Jr. with the E, and Lady Breeze is Brianna Sullivan Sharpe at Brianna Sullivan Sharpe. Her name.
Sullivan
Sharpe.
All right, listen, y'all.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
I have a member of my church that absolutely loves you, and I know she's on here watching because she wrote something. Her name is Aurelia Daniels, and when I tell you, we call her Riri. If you give her a shout out tonight, let me tell you, first of all, she loves you. I walk in the office sometimes, she has you up preaching or praying. I'm like, that's Marissa. She's like, I love her. So Aurelia is on here tonight. Can you give Riri a shout out for me?
Absolutely, Sister Riri. It's me, Marissa Farrell. I am a nobody, just trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. I'm kidding, but I appreciate you. Oh, there she is right there. I appreciate you. How you doing, sis? Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for your support and your love. People who support my ministry really do my heart glad, because some days, you get tired of this thing, but I'm thankful and grateful for people like you who just keep us going, who push us to believe that we are impacting lives all over this world without even knowing half the time. So thank you, Sister Riri. And I can't wait to get back to fellowship so that I can see you all in person. I love y'all, truly.
Thank you.
Brother, you it. Listen, y'all. Reginald Wayne Sharpe is my guy. I'm posting this information again. I want y'all to follow him. Follow Pastor Reggie. Follow Lady Bree. They are going to do amazing things. This is just the beginning. If y'all don't know, this is the hottest, most blackest, swagged out couple in Christendom right now. Lady Bree and Reggie Sharpe. I love y'all. I'm going to pray. And I'm going to get Dr. Sharpe off here so he can go and enjoy his wife and his life in Chicago. Reggie Sharpe, I don't know how I can thank you, God, man, but I'll be texting you because I'm going to get on your schedule again. If you were blessed tonight, do me a favor. Post in this comments. And after this goes up, I want you to hit that share button again, because I want to make sure that the world gets to experience the conversation we just had. And we're going to continue this conversation. And I assure you that we're going to do it before the month is out. Would you bow your heads wherever you are, Father, in Jesus' name? We thank you for the blessing of who you are. God, I thank you that you are a God who loves and cares about all of your people. God, and I'm more grateful that you sent a son who could identify with the struggles of those who are common and those who are underprivileged and those, Father, who are marginalized. I thank you that we have a Jesus and we have a Christ for our crisis. Now, Father, I pray that you would continue to lend wisdom to your leaders, Father, to pastors, to millennials, Father, even to those on the front lines, to politicians. I pray that everywhere you have planted someone with the wisdom and the love of God flowing through them, that you would continue to release strategy to them to speak to this climate and this culture. And Father, where there is evil in the government, in the political systems, on the local levels, in the local assemblies, even in the churches, I pray right now that with a strong and mighty hand, that you would uproot and eradicate every scent of darkness that seeks to overtake and to simply be manipulative and do things that are against your will and against the people of God. I pray right now, Father, that you would keep a hedge of protection around black and brown men and women all over this country. Father, I pray that we don't have to experience the loss of another life that simply becomes a hashtag in a moment of anger for us to realize that this systematic problem still exists. I pray, Father, that you would bring a sense of peace across this country, and that you would help us to rise up with righteous indignation to stand in justice and truth. We love you and we thank you for Pastor Reginald Sharpe. I pray that you would continue to bless his ministry, enlarge him, expand him, and increase him. It is in the name of the Lord Jesus that we ask all these things. In Jesus' name, amen. I love each and every one of you. Hope y'all had a good time tonight. I'm ending this live. I love y'all. Y'all be blessed and have a wonderful night.
Love you.
Reggie Wayne Sharpe. Reggie Wayne Sharpe.